Hi there, Randy and Leslie in the Family Reformation Project. Today we're going to answer the question. This is a good question. What is one of the big issues you find in working with families, and how do you help them address it?
Yeah, this is a great question. Families are multifaceted, but oftentimes the largest issue that we see prevalent and happening over and over and over that causes this flywheel of pain and trauma in a family is unforgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be as simple as it's any broken agreement in a family,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There are the big things, there's affairs, there's, financial things where there's been a breach of agreement and trust, but oftentimes it's the small
Mm-hmm.
things. It's for children, for instance, it might be telling your son that, yeah, for sure, I'm going to be there for your ball game this Friday, and then not showing up. Whether you intended to or not, you didn't show up. And the problem with these things when they happen over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again is they create unforgiveness in the person that's being harmed. So this is a two-edged sword. And we talk about this in the book, that personal responsibility piece and choosing, because we
Mm-hmm.
choose whether or not we're going to be offended.
That's right.
And as parents, we get the honor of teaching our children and modeling what forgiveness looks like. So what does it look like when you said you were going to go to your son's game and you didn't show up?
Mm-hmm.
If you say nothing and life just goes on and you get busy, that child is going to create their own story about what that means, for lack of
So true.
information. We all do this. And unfortunately, when those kinds of broken agreements happen, a child often will formulate the negative that I'm not cared for, I'm not loved, I don't matter. And so it's really crucial as parents and with each other, this not just with small children,
Mm-hmm.
that when we have broken a trust or an agreement, that we take the personal responsibility and we go and we apologize for what we did, and we make a commitment that's not going to happen again, right? And then the other family member, the one that's been harmed or where there's been a breach or a wound,
Mm-hmm.
that person really, if they choose not to forgive, it builds up a lot of resentment. That's really the number one thing we find over and over and over is unforgiveness, and it's oftentimes a buildup of years of broken agreements.
That's really well said. Nice job. I would maybe just add to it that any time that trust is breached, that, in other words, whatever that is, we said we're going to not spend more than $100 than we did without asking for, or agreement, or, Dad, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do it. Mom, you said you're going to. Anytime trust is broken, where there's an agreement that's made and we break it, it is a wound, and it needs to be. It's just like falling down and really skinning your knee, and it needs some Bactine, and it needs some ointment, and it needs a Band-Aid, and it needs to be filed. We have those processes in the book. I'll just say this last thing. It's the importance, the desperate uh, cry to build in your family the ability to forgive, especially by leading by example. Ask forgiveness. I've asked forgiveness of my kids many times, right? Because I made mistakes and I broke agreements. And I do that a lot less now because I'm mindful of how important this is. But the Bible has a parable Jesus is
Yeah.
teaching about the parable of the unmerciful servant. And it's a really interesting story. To make a long story short, this guy owes the king 40 lifetimes of wages. That's a lot of money. And the king is going to throw him in jail and sell everything, and he can't pay. And he cries out for mercy. The king gives him mercy, forgives the debt, huge debt. The guy goes out and finds another friend or whatever acquaintance that owed him 90 days' wages. Not a lot of money, really. And he demanded payment, and the guy couldn't pay. And instead of extending that same forgiveness that the king gave to him, he had the guy thrown into prison. Well, word got back to the king, and the king called this unmerciful servant before him in the parable. And Jesus is teaching this, and he says, the king has this servant delivered to the tormentors until his debt could be paid. And then Jesus says this wow thing. He says, "So will my Father do to you if you don't agree. If you don't forgive from the heart those who have debts against you, or those who sinned against you. Wow. The God who delivers us to torment based on our own choice not to forgive. We know this medically. The root cause of many serious diseases that kill our unforgiveness, bitterness down. I mean, literally rots our bones and our organs. So I know that's a strong finish, and it deserves it, because if we don't forgive, our sins won't be forgiven. Not a one of us can say that we're blameless. We need our sins forgiven.
Yeah. And there's tools in the workbook. We walk through this step by step. There
Mhm.
is a way, a process to understand what forgiveness is and learn how to receive it
Mhm.
as well as give it.
Mhm.
So check us out at thefamilyreformationproject.com. Post your questions. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. 5 of them. You did it.